So welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be showing you how to create your own custom table in SAP. So this is a trial system of SAP, and we've previously worked with the flight model, but to be honest, that's not a whole lot. I mean, we want to know what things look like in the real world. So for that, we need to create our own custom table. So to create our own custom table in SAP, we go to transaction SE11. And from transaction SE11, we can enter our own database table name. Now, mind you, it must be in the customer namespace, so it needs to start with a Z or a Y. So in this case, we're just going to do Z employee. So this is just a basic table. It's going to hold employee data. We click on create, and then we'll come to this screen, and the first thing that we are prompted for is a short description. So I'll just say employees. We have to enter a delivery class, so if we do the F4 help on that, we are prompted with a delivery class. So we have to choose here a delivery class. So application table is more than likely going to be the one that you're going to choose. You can read through these descriptions and pick accordingly. So once we've chosen a delivery class, we need to come down here and select an option. Display maintenance allowed with the restrictions, display maintenance allowed. Since we're going to be creating a table maintenance dialog for this table, I'll go ahead and do display/maintenance allowed. This will allow GUI users to display this table and to maintain its entries. So now that we've chosen display/maintenance allowed, we can go in and we can actually define our fields for the table. So from the fields view, this is where we can define our fields. We choose a field name, a data element, and whether or not it's a key field, and it allows initial values. So this is not null being forced. Now I'm not going to go into details on describing database design or any of that kind of stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you guys already know about that. If there's enough interest, I'll put another video out there about that, but this is just simply showing you how to create the table and get the job done. So in SAP, there is one particular field that is very, very important, and that field is MANDT. This is the client field. What this field does is it essentially filters data for a particular client. So if I'm in client 100, it'll only show me data where this field, MANDT, is equal to 100. And this is all taken care of by SAP in the background. There's no need for a developer to fill this out typically. So that is a key field, and it is going to be not null. And the data element is MANDT. So if I hit enter, you'll see over here this data type, length, and short description are already filled out. So MANDT, like I said, is a client field, and it's got its own data element. So for SAP tables, you have fields which use data elements which belong to domains. So we're going to create a custom field here. We're going to call it, for our employees table, first_name. Actually, let's back up. Let's just do ID. It is a key field. It can't be null, and we need a data element. So let's just say ZZID. If I hit enter, we can tell that data element doesn't exist. So if I click on ZZID is not active, see? So if I double click using forward navigation, let's go ahead and save. It's going to ask us for a package. We're not going to transport this to a Q quality analysis system or a productive environment, so we're going to go ahead and click local object. And just for background, local object, we'll put it in a package so that it's never intended to be transported. It's just something we're going to be in this development environment and playing around with. If we were going to actually take this and transport it to a productive system or a quality assurance system, we would actually specify a package that's set up in the transport management system so that it could be, later on sent over to one of those systems. So after that, we're going to see our data element ZZID does not exist. Create the data element. We'll say yes. So now we're brought to the screen where we can actually create the data element. So give it a good short description. We'll say employee ID, and then it's going to ask us, is this an elementary type? And we can choose a domain, which is a custom. Think of it as a custom type that has a specified length, type, decimal places, field help, and field labels, all that sort of thing. Or we can say employee ID is actually a built-in type. Let's do built-in type. We'll say num-c, which is just, I'll give you the technical help. Let's do the F4 help on this. So these are all of the built-in elementary data types that we can use. And SAP does provide several. So we're able to see num-c is numerical text. So this is a number stored as text. We'll just go ahead and pick this. We'll give it a length. Let's say our employee ID can be 8 characters with 0 decimal places. Okay, we've defined our type. So the only other thing we need to do in this data element is provide a field label. So in this field label, we'll just go ahead and fill out a short, medium, long, and heading ID. So we'll say in the short ID, so if we hit enter, and this is what I wanted to show you guys, you actually don't have to fill out any of those lengths. When you pre-fill it and hit enter, it'll go ahead and fill it for you. So what we want to do is go ahead and activate it. It's going to ask us for a package. We'll continue to use local object for the rest of this course. It's going to ask us to activate the data element. So in an activation screen, it'll show you multiple entries. Typically, unless you're more experienced and you already know this, what you want to do is activate just what you're working on. So we'll just activate this DTEL, which is the data element. We're not going to activate TABL, which is our Z employees table. And the Z employees table is not ready to be activated yet. So we'll just go ahead and highlight the data element and click continue. So we can see that our data element was now activated. So if we go back, we can see that our field ID with the data element ZZID has now been added to our employees table. So for our next field, let's go ahead and create another one. Let's just call it first_name. It's not going to be a key field. Let's say it can't be initials, so it needs to be populated. So now we're going to go ahead and do something similar. We're going to go ahead and say data element ZZ first_name. Click to create. Go ahead and save. So the data element doesn't exist. Go ahead and create it. And we'll just call this one first name. This is also going to be a built-in type, but it's going to be of type char, characters. Let's just say that a first name can be 30 characters and 0 decimal places. Now go to field label. If it fits, we can do it in short text and then copy. Just copy it on down to long and heading. Click enter, it'll give us our lengths. Activate the data element. Same package, local package, $temp. Now we're going to go ahead and activate our data element. And now our data element has been saved and activated. We can go ahead and back out to our table. We're going to create one more field and give it its own. Let's go ahead and do last name. Say no initial values and call it ZZ last name. Double click it to go ahead and create it since it doesn't exist. Go ahead and save the table. The data element doesn't exist. Yes to create it. We'll say last name. Say it's a built-in type. Type char. So characters. I forgot what we did the last one. Was it 30? Let's do 30 characters. Activate it. Local object. And SAP is helpful if it tells us we forgot to maintain the field label. So click OK. We can go ahead and activate it, but we do need to go in and maintain the field label. So it takes us to the field label screen. You can say last underscore name. Copy that. Paste it everywhere it's applicable. Now we can activate our data element with all the things being complete. Go ahead and click continue. So we can see our data element here has been saved and activated. So we'll just go ahead and back to our table. So now we have our client, our ID, our first and last name, each with their own data element. So now we're going to show you a domain. A domain might be something, I guess the best way to explain it is just to go ahead and show it to you. We'll do gender, say ZZ gender. We'll double click to create our gender data element. Go ahead and create it. And we're going to assign it its own domain. So I'll go ahead and fill the short description out. Gender. Domain we're going to say is going to be called ZZ gender. Same name as the actual data element, but the beauty of a domain is it can be reused amongst data elements. So if this is something we know we're going to use in a bunch of other programs, we'll go ahead and create it as a domain, and then we can assign other data elements to this domain. So double click on ZZ gender, the domain, mind you, not the data element. Click local object, and we're going to go in here and we're going to create it. We see that the domain does not exist, so that's going to say we're going to create the domain. We say yes. So for the domain, we're going to just give it a short description. We're going to say, let's just do domain gender. It's going to ask for a data type. We're going to say for this one, it's just going to be character of length 1, output length 1. Case sensitive, we don't worry about this for this particular one. Properties, nothing to do here. And value range, this is something about a domain you can do. You can have fixed single values, an interval value, which means we can say from example 0 to 9999, and those will be valid entries for that table. Or we can select a value table, which is where we pick a table and a column that are acceptable inputs for this ZZ gender domain. So for this particular example, I'm just going to do, let's say fixed, we'll say it's M for male, F for female, and then we'll just say O for other. We'll go ahead and activate our domain, assign it to the local object. Then we're just going to go ahead and activate just the domain, which is DOMA. Now that our domain is saved and activated, we can back out. And we'll be back to our data element. And see, in our data element now, we say elementary type, domain. And since domain is specified, we can go ahead and we'll have domain there. Our field label, we can go ahead and maintain that. Hit enter, hit activate, and we'll activate our data element that uses that particular domain. So one way to think of it is a domain is more of a specified type, while a data element uses that domain which is then used by a table field. So as you get more experience with SAP and with ABAP, you'll understand a little bit more about what it means for a table field to be a domain or a data element. Essentially everything's got a domain, but it could be an elementary type. So we've activated our data element. So we'll go ahead and back out. So now we see ZZ gender added. It's a character, one character. And then we'll go ahead and do one more, since I've shown you how to create custom data elements, custom domains, and a data element based off of a domain. We'll go ahead and just add DOB, date of birth. Actually, we'll say none of these can have initial values. So every field in this table will be non-null. For the data element, we can say DATS, which is a built-in type in the ABAP data dictionary, which is a field of type DATS. All this is a date, 8 characters. It's year, 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 month, month, day, day. And then if we wanted to do other built-in data dictionary fields, we could do that here. So what I'll do is I'll just go ahead. You would think activate, we're done here. But there's actually a few more things with tables that you want to maintain before you activate them. So I'll just go ahead and activate it to see what happens here. So when activating, it's going to ask me for technical settings for the table. Data class is a required field, so we'll just hit the help on that to see what it says. So these are different types of data classes that we can have for our tables. These are master data, transparent tables, transaction data. Essentially, most of the time we're going to be using APPL0, which is just master data, transparent tables. So we'll go ahead and choose that here. Again, you can research this if you'd like and figure out what is the most appropriate data class for you to choose for your own table. Now, size category is also useful. We'll go ahead and do this. This is basically just letting the database system know, where do I store this in the table space? How many rows and size should I allocate to this actual database table? So for just a test table like this, you know, we could say 0 to 3,800. I'll just do 3,800 to 15,000. Okay. So now we'll just hit enter. Looks like everything is good. We'll hit save. Okay, and we see that our table's technical settings has been saved. So now if we go back, we'll get this message. Warnings occurred during activation. Do you want to display the activation log? So we'll say yes. So this is a feature of tables where we as developers are expected to maintain this enhancement category. So you can see here our warning is enhancement category for table missing, enhancement category for include or subtype missing. So to fix this, we just go back. And now from here, we can maintain our enhancement category. Forgive me, I don't do this every day. It's under one of these. There we go. So extras, enhancement category. Click that. So it'll say our table Z employee is not classified. Select an enhancement category. See documentation. But I'll go ahead and explain those categories right here. Go ahead and click continue. And then for most things, we're just going to say can be enhanced deep. Again, you guys can look this up on your own time, but for the most part, a customer created tables, you just say can be enhanced or cannot be enhanced, you know, whichever is suitable for you, and click copy. So now that we've actually set the enhancement category for the table, we should be good to go ahead and activate the table. So now we can see down here in the status bar, object saved and activated. So this table is ready to go. So, you know, one transaction that we use when working with tables commonly is SM30. And this is where we go to maintain or display tables. So we'll just go ahead and start that up. We'll enter our table, Z employee. We click on display. And we see here the maintenance dialog for Z employee is incomplete, or not defined. So we can't display it, we can't maintain it, we can't do anything with this table other than work with it in actual SAP ABAP. In ABAP programs, we can still append to the table, delete from the table, or select from the table. But as far as going to SM30 and maintaining the table, we can't do that. We can display in SE11 the contents. Go ahead and just click execute, and we'll see no table entries. So if there were table entries here, we could see them in the SE11 transaction. But how do we create entries other than ABAP? Well, a lot of times we create tables so that employees within the company, or maybe people in IT, developers working on these tables, should be able to maintain them. Maybe they contain configuration data or parameter data that we're going to read in our ABAP programs. So what we need to do is be able to maintain this table other than just in ABAP. So what we're going to do is we're going to create something called a table maintenance dialog. Now, a table maintenance dialog can be easily created from SE11. We go to Utilities, Table Maintenance Generator, and then for the Table Maintenance Generator, we're going to need to select an authorization group. So we'll press the F4 help on that to see what our options are. So for our options, you could select a different authorization group, again, if you know what you're doing. Otherwise, maybe we don't want it with an authorization group, so we do ampersand NC ampersand. Then for a function group, we can go ahead and just give it the same name as our actual table view, and this will create a function group for it. Maintenance type, you can do 2-step or 1-step if you're familiar with maintaining tables in SM30. We'll do 1-step and then hit find screen numbers. And what this does is it'll go ahead and propose a maintenance dialog for us. So we'll say propose screen numbers. So at this point, we've created a table maintenance dialog. We can go ahead and back out, do activate, we'll see active object generated. So now we can back out of our table view, go back to transaction SM30, hit Z employee, select maintain. Oh, apparently I haven't finished defining the maintenance dialog. Must have missed a step here, guys. Give me 1 second. Go back into Z employee, change, utilities, table maintenance generator. Maybe I didn't finish it here. We'll do add in C, Z employee, find screen numbers. Oops, hold on. Do 1-step, find screen numbers, propose screen numbers, function group. Don't need to double click there. Hit enter. Do create. There we go. So I had to actually just hit create, and then we're going to go ahead and save it in the local package. Object does not exist. Give me a second here, guys. I do this so few and far between that I don't always know exactly what I'm doing here. That looks complete to me. Just do create one more time. Go ahead and back out. Activate. Active object generated. So now we should be able to go into SM30 and maintain. It's incomplete or not defined. So I'm missing something here, guys. That's the beauty of me doing these videos on the fly. So go ahead, go to check. All right. We'll go to table maintenance generator for the third time. I must just be missing something really silly here, but we'll go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and do Z employee. Find screen numbers, propose screen numbers. Hit enter. Go ahead and click create. Save it to the local package. So maybe it's wanting me to actually pick a legitimate package here. Let's go ahead and just try that. You know, some things in SAP, they don't much care for you to save it to the local package. So go ahead and do Z. We'll just choose a package. Go ahead and create a workbench request. So that must be what the issue is you actually have to assign it to a package here, which is no big deal. If you don't have a system that you're planning on transporting this to, you can just assign it to some bogus package and, you know, delete the transport request from transaction SE10 or, you know, whatever you plan on doing there. So then we just get this warning, which is nothing to worry about. It says table Z employee is extendable without limits, and that's because we've went ahead and maintained the enhancement category, and that's no big deal there. So we'll just go ahead and do activate one more time to make sure everything's good and active. We see that it's active now. So we'll go ahead and back out. And then third time's the charm, right? Go to transaction SM30, Z employee, and click maintain. And now we should see that we actually have a table maintenance dialog that we generated so that we're able to go in and individually maintain entries to this table so we can add, remove, modify, whatever we need to do. So here's our table, ID, first name, last name, gender, date. We can go ahead and do new entries, and from this table maintenance dialog screen we can go ahead and do a, you know, whatever we need to do. So I'll just do my name, and you see there's the help. So if I do F, get mail, other. So that's cool. We have an F4 drop down for this. And then I'll just do my date of birth. Hit save. Data was saved. So now if I go into SE11, go into Z employee, display, contents, go ahead and just query everything. We can see that there is an entry in the table that I just made, client 100, which is the client that I'm currently using, 001. The ID I specified, my first name, last name, gender, and my date of birth. So, thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment, send me an email. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.